Hi, this is Sister Angela Given. I'm really filled with gratitude to be given this opportunity just to reflect and share some of my experiences in my religious vocation. But before I jump into that, I want to pose a question. Do you think the world needs missionaries this time of our contemporary life? And for the least, do you think America needs missionaries? And if missionaries, if at all, any missionary from Africa? I don't think so. But we all have different opinions. So, to begin with, this year we are celebrating the centennial, big celebration for us, the centenary of the sisters' arrival to the American soil from Europe, in particular Poland. And we wouldn't just celebrate. I think personally it's a time for introspection. To celebrate any milestone, you have to begin from the beginning. You start from the beginning. So how did the sisters even think of coming to America? First of all, they were religious nuns with no language skill, but they came here, and now it's 100 years later, we are celebrating their coming here. If I have to look back into my religious life, how did I end up here in America? To begin with, I want to share with you that God calls you where you are. He finds you at your point of need. He doesn't call you because you have so much to contribute or because you are an intellectual. No. If that were the case, I wouldn't be here. I grew up in Africa from my peasant parents. There was no parish nearby. We only had one parish about 4 kilometers away. And we only had Mass 3 times a year because that's when the priest could manage. If you needed to attend Mass, you had to travel those 14 kilometers to the parish, sleep over for Sunday Mass, and then afterwards you go back. But one momentous time, one incident that really changed my life was one Sunday morning. A priest had come for Mass. He came with a religious sister, an Irish nun, elderly, frail, with no language skill whatsoever. So when the priest came in for interest of time, he rushed always to hear confessions while the sister gathered the women and maybe youths, and those children were able to understand, and she was talking to them. This particular day, she was talking about the importance of the sacrament of reconciliation. And she was struggling to kind of enunciate or to make the people understand what she was trying to say. And I was doing my 7th grade. I was in 7th grade. So I was standing there trying to, I felt bad for her, but she was joyful. She didn't show any stress at all, not knowing the language. She was laughing, and the women were so happy, applauding. And so in a split second, I'm like, this woman is so frail. She doesn't know the language. The people are so happy. Do they really understand what she's trying to say? And at that moment, I said, Lord, if I could be a sister, I would want my people to understand your word in the language they know, and I would tell them from their own experience, bring them to where they are. But how do I do that? I'm just a daughter of a peasant, a farmer. How do I get the education I need? I'm sure to be a nun, you need to go to a Catholic school, you get a good education anyway. So in the evening, I went to my father. I said, I want to become a sister. And he laughed. He said, so you are only in your 7th grade. This year is the examination year. So what you do at the examination will determine who you become. So every time I was praying, Lord, I want to become a nun. I didn't know what it involves whatsoever. For some reason, I went to I did very well at grade 7 exam. It's a national exam. I did very well. I was one of the highest. And they instead of going to the school that my parents had chosen, they sent me to a school just nearby. It had just opened. That was the third year. So there I met the other students. We had mass, like beginning of the term, the middle of the term, and the end of the term, because the chaplain had to come from another high school. So one Sunday afternoon, they invited me to join the Vocations Club. We had other students, and one of the students told me, "Which religious congregation would you like to join?" I'm like, "Do I even have idea they are religious congregation? I want to become a sister." So she said, "Okay, I'll give you a brochure. And the next term, there will be sisters from different congregations. You can choose which one." So the following week, we had a meeting where the sisters of the Franciscan overseas came. They gave us the pamphlets, and I was like, I need the congregation that exemplifies their poverty. So this one, I need this one. And I wrote. So we started communicating. But one day, when I was doing now my 12th grade, just before we closed, one of my classmates handed me a brochure that had the picture of the little servant sisters in a home for the children. And one sister from Poland, she was in a kneeling position with hands like in a position of a cow, kind of like clawing, and children were jumping over her, some were standing on her, and I just lost my breath. I was like, "Do I see the real thing? Is this just a movie or what?" She said, "No, I've been there to Lusaka, and they have children and all this. I want to join this congregation." For me, what caught me was these children are black, they are young, this nun is down on the floor, and they are jumping on her. It just was a picture that couldn't get out of my mind. So I wrote, and thankfully, before we closed the school, the sister wrote to me, "Given, I will be coming to visit your school, and I hope to see you." So that's how I met. The first time the sister, we talked and said, "How serious are you?" I said, "I am serious, but I don't think my parents will allow me." So she said, "Pray over it and ask, who are you close with, your mother or your father?" I said, "Certainly my father, not my mother." So when I went home, I told my father, I said, "I want to become a sister, and I'm serious. After the exam, I'm going to Lusaka to be with the sisters." And he looked at me, he started crying. So I'm like, "What?" So he said, "I need to talk to you." So when I went to talk to him, he said, "Listen, from the time you were born, I knew there was something big, because you are the only girl who went to a high school in this village, and you choose just to become a nun." So he narrated to me that I was born prematurely. The day my aunt died, my mother had a young sister who she was staying with. She got pregnant as a teenager, and she died in childbirth. And my mother was 7 months pregnant with me. She went into preterm labor. That's how I was born. So they wanted to keep me in the incubator. My father said, "No, I don't want to lose my sister-in-law, my wife and the daughter. I'll take her home. If she dies, I bury her there." So he was actually carrying me on his chest. They call it kangaroo method, to keep me warm. And by 9 months, I grew to be such a fine baby that everybody admired in the village. And I said, "Why didn't you tell me all this?" He said, "I wanted you to grow up so you would understand." So why am I sharing all this to you listeners? I just want to emphasize, probably to put this to context, I want to use the quotation of I don't know, philosopher, but somebody, Mark Twain. He says, "In your life, there are two very important days: the day you were born and the day you discovered why." And for me, the day I was born has added a spice or a topping to my religious vocation. I was born for something. If I didn't die in that dire situation in Africa with those were in the early 70s, there were no amenities in the hospital or what, but I grew up to be who I am today. So that's very important day. The second day, why was I born? Why did I even read? Why am I here? That's the question. And to wrap this up, I would want to add one more important day for me. It's the day when you start off to pursue that purpose for why you were born. And do you do it alone? No. Be it in the family, be it in the religious family or biological family, or maybe in the profession of fraternity. You need others to help you. You need actually to hear from somebody that you are not alone. For example, my vocation was born from the presence and sacrifice of this Irish, frail, elderly nun who was selfless, wanted to share even without language skill. So, remember, I want to leave you with these thoughts. 3 important days in your life: the day you were born, the day you discover why you were born, and then the day when you get courage from, probably, let me put it in a theological way, when your faith tells you you have a reason to do this, then you cooperate with God's grace, and God will always support you, and you pursue that purpose, of course, with the support of the family, the church, and friends.